This is the story of the Lioness of Kwanza. In the heart of the Kwanza forest, nestled by the great river, lies the village of Ntembe, a place where tradition rules with an iron fist. The village elders have long decreed that women are forbidden from engaging in war, believing that their role is to nurture and sustain life, not to take it. However, one young woman, named Amina, harbors a secret dream of becoming a warrior. Amina's father, a revered warrior who was killed in a border skirmish, left her with a fierce sense of justice and an unparalleled skill with the spear and bow. Each night, while the village sleeps, she trains in the hidden depths of the forest, her movements as swift and silent as the river's flow. Amina is training in the forest when her younger brother, Kofi, discovers her. Kofi stands with wide eyes, looking shocked as he sees his sister holding a spear. Amina, dressed in simple training clothes, looks determined yet slightly anxious as she realizes she's been caught. The dense forest surrounding them, with tall trees and thick underbrush, creates an intimate and secretive setting. They quietly make their way back to the village, the weight of their shared secret heavy but their bond stronger than ever. By a small fire in the heart of the forest, Amina and her younger brother Kofi shared a tender moment. The peaceful surroundings stood in stark contrast to the chaos they knew was coming. Amina placed a reassuring hand on Kofi's shoulder, their expressions reflecting both the love they held for each other and the weight of their shared secret. In that quiet moment, the bond between them was stronger than ever, a source of strength against the trials ahead. One day, Amina stood in her family's hut, surrounded by her father's warrior memorabilia. She held his old armor in her hands, looking down at it with a mix of reverence and determination. The armor, though well worn, still looked formidable. As she traced her fingers over the familiar dents and scratches, she felt the weight of his legacy and the purpose it instilled in her. A fortnight later, in the dimly lit interior of their family hut, the flickering firelight cast long shadows on the walls. Amina is seated, meticulously cleaning her father's old armor, while Kofi stands nearby, his face a storm of conflicting emotions. The tension in the room is palpable. Amina and Kofi had been arguing about her clandestine training sessions for weeks now, and tonight was no different. Kofi's voice, usually calm and collected, was tinged with a desperate urgency. He had once again pleaded with her to abandon her dangerous ambitions, to conform to the village's traditions and laws that strictly forbade women from engaging in battle. Amina, on the other hand, remained resolute. Her eyes, hardened by determination, met Kofi's with unwavering defiance. She understood his fears, but she couldn't let them deter her from what she believed was her duty. Their village was under threat, and she was one of the few who possessed the skills to protect it. The memories of their father, a revered warrior, fueled her resolve. As their voices escalated, their argument grew louder and more heated. Kofi's frustration boiled over, and he accused Amina of recklessly endangering not only her life but also their family's honor. Amina shot back, asserting that doing nothing while their village faced destruction would be the true dishonor. In the midst of their quarrel, neither of them noticed the faint creak of the door opening. Outside, a villager had paused, drawn by the sound of raised voices. Hidden in the shadows, they listened, their eyes widening as the realization of what they were hearing sunk in. When the neighboring tribe of Mabutu threatens to invade, the village's warriors are outnumbered and desperate. Amina knows this is her chance to prove her worth and protect her home. She cuts her hair short, binds her chest, and dons her father's old armor, adopting the name of her fallen brother, Omori, who was lost in a raid years ago. Omori quickly rises through the ranks, earning the respect and admiration of the other warriors with unparalleled bravery and skill. During a strategy meeting, the village chieftain, Yuba, grows suspicious of the mysterious new warrior. Omori, Yuba calls, beckoning the disguised Amina to his side. "Where did you learn to fight so well?" Amina bows her head, her voice steady. I trained in secret, Chieftain Yuba, to honor my fallen brother and protect our village. Yuba narrows his eyes but says nothing more. As the final battle looms, he keeps a close watch on Omori. Few months to the battle, Yuba approaches Amina. There is something different about you, Omori. Your movements, your voice, you remind me of someone. Amina's heart races. I am only here to fight for Ntembe, chieftain. Nothing more. Yuba, after learning about the true identity of Amina, became torn between upholding the law of the land and the security of the people of Ntembe. In a secluded place, away from prying eyes. The moonlight filters through the dense canopy, casting a silvery glow over the gathered women of Ntembe. They sit in a tight circle, their faces lit with determination and resolve. The women of Ntembe had always known their place in the village was dictated by age-old traditions and laws. But the courage of Amina, who had secretly trained as a warrior and now stood ready to defend their home, had ignited a spark within them. They could no longer sit idly by while the men alone decided the fate of their village. It was time for them to take a stand. Under the cover of darkness, they had called a secret meeting. One by one, they slipped away from their huts, careful not to attract any attention. The clearing in the forest had been chosen for its seclusion, a place where they could speak freely without fear of being overheard. At the center of the circle stood Ujide, an elder woman whose wisdom and compassion had earned her the respect of the entire village. She looked around at the faces of the women gathered there, mothers, daughters, sisters, all united by a common purpose. We are here tonight, Ujide began, her voice steady and calm, because our sister Amina has shown us that courage knows no gender. She has taken up arms to protect us all, risking her life and defying the laws that seek to bind us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. The women nodded, their faces set with determination. We cannot let her bravery be punished, Ujide continued. We must rally behind her. We must convince the leadership that Amina's actions are not a crime but a testament to her love for our village. She fights for all of us. Another woman, Busy, a young mother with a fierce spirit, spoke up. Amina's training and skills are our strength. Without her, we are vulnerable. The law is unjust if it punishes someone for doing what is right. We must make the elders see that. We need a plan, said Neka, a seasoned healer known for her quick wit. We can't just plead for mercy, we must show them that Amina's leadership is our hope. If we stand united, they cannot ignore us. The women discussed strategies late into the night. They decided to present their case to the village leadership, arguing that Amina's actions were born out of necessity and love for their community. They would highlight her skills, her bravery, and the inspiration she had become for them all. They would not only defend Amina but also call for a reevaluation of the laws that restricted women from taking active roles in the defense of their home. As the meeting drew to a close, Ujide stood once more. Remember, she said, her voice filled with resolve, we are not just fighting for Amina. We are fighting for our right to stand alongside our men, to protect our children, and to secure the future of Ntembe. Together, we are strong. The women dispersed, each returning to her home with a renewed sense of purpose. They knew the path ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to face the challenges. United in their cause, they would ensure that Amina's bravery would not be in vain. The fate of their village, and perhaps the very fabric of their society, depended on their solidarity and determination. The women of Ntembe, their hearts stilled by the decision made in the secret forest meeting, emerged from their homes with a unified purpose. They moved through the village, their voices rising in a powerful chant of solidarity for Amina. The villagers watched in awe as the procession grew, women of all ages joining the march, holding handmade banners and wielding traditional symbols of strength and unity. As they approached Amina's compound, the chant grew louder. We stand with Amina. We fight for our village. The sight was both inspiring and unprecedented. Never before had the women of Ntembe rallied together in such a public display of support. Amina, who had been confined to her home awaiting judgment, stepped out of her hut at the sound of the approaching crowd. Her eyes widened in surprise and gratitude as she saw the sea of determined faces. Yejaid, Busy, Neka, and many others she knew and respected stood before her, their expressions resolute. Yejaid stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of their collective resolve. Amina, we are here to support you. Your bravery has shown us the strength within ourselves. We will not let you stand alone. Moved to tears, Amina nodded, her voice choked with emotion. Thank you. Your support means everything to me. With Amina now at the forefront, the women continued their march toward the king's palace, where the village leadership awaited to pass judgment. As they walked, their numbers swelled. Men and children joined the procession, inspired by the women's courage and unity. At the palace, Chieftain Yuba stood beside the king, observing the approaching crowd with a mix of surprise and concern. The women's chant reached the palace gates, echoing off the ancient walls. The king, a wise and just ruler, raised his hand to signal for silence, and the crowd fell quiet. Yejaid stepped forward, addressing the king and Chieftain Yuba directly. Your Majesty, Chieftain Yuba, we come before you today not to beg for mercy, but to demand justice. Amina's actions were driven by a love for our village and a desire to protect us all. She has shown us that the strength to defend our home resides in all of us, regardless of gender. Chieftain Yuba, his eyes narrowed in contemplation, stepped forward. The law is clear, but so too is the bravery and skill that Amina has demonstrated. She has broken the law, yes, but she has also inspired unity and courage in our people. This cannot be ignored. The king nodded thoughtfully, turning to Chieftain Yuba. What do you propose, Yuba? Chieftain Yuba took a deep breath, addressing both the king and the assembled villagers. I propose that we withhold judgment on Amina. Instead, we must reconsider our laws and recognize the potential within every member of our community, male or female. Amina's actions, though in violation of our traditions, have shown us a new path forward. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices filled with hope and relief. The king raised his hand once more, bringing silence. So be it. We will withhold judgment on Amina. We will convene to reevaluate our laws and ensure they reflect the values of our people. Amina's bravery will not go unnoticed, nor will the unity you have shown today. Amina stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Chieftain Yuba. Thank you, my sisters and brothers. Together, we will protect Ntembe. The women of Ntembe, their spirits lifted, embraced Amina. The village had come together in an unprecedented show of solidarity, their unity stronger than any law. As they dispersed, returning to their homes, they knew that this day had marked the beginning of a new era for Ntembe, one of equality, courage, and hope. 6 months later, Amina's hair has grown and she braided it, knowing fully well that her gender no longer matters but the security of her people. The air is thick with the scent of burning wood and herbs. Amina stands before Chieftain Yuba, her posture tense but resolute. The walls of the hut are adorned with ancient weapons and artifacts, remnants of battles fought and won. Chieftain Yuba, his face lined with years of wisdom and experience, studied Amina carefully. The recent events had tested the very fabric of their society, and yet, here she stood, a beacon of hope and strength. Yuba's gaze was intense, but there was a glimmer of something else in his eyes, respect, perhaps even admiration. Amina, he began, his voice deep and steady, you have proven yourself in ways I never thought possible. Your bravery, your skill, and your determination have not only protected our village but have also united our people. Amina nodded, her eyes locked onto Yuba's. Thank you, Chieftain. I only did what I believed was right. Yuba took a step forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. It is because of this belief, this unwavering commitment to our village, that I must ask something of you. Amina's heart raced, but she remained silent, waiting for Yuba to continue. The Mabuto tribe will not relent, Yuba said gravely. Their threat looms ever closer, and our people look to us for leadership, for guidance. I have led our warriors for many years, but the time has come for a new leader to emerge. One who has shown exceptional courage and an unyielding spirit. He paused, letting his words sink in. Amina's breath caught in her throat. She had never imagined this moment, never anticipated what was about to come. Amina, Yuba continued, I am entrusting you with the leadership of our warriors. The fate of Ntembe now rests in your hands. Amina's eyes widened in shock. Chieftain Yuba, I don't know what to say. I never expected. Yuba raised a hand, silencing her gently. You need not say anything. Your actions have spoken louder than any words ever could. You have inspired not only the women but the entire village. They will follow you, Amina. They will rally behind you, just as they did when you stood up against our traditions. He reached behind him and took down a ceremonial spear, one that had been passed down through generations of leaders. It was intricately carved, its blade sharp and gleaming. He held it out to her, a symbol of the responsibility he was bestowing upon her. Amina took the spear, her hand steadied despite the weight of what it represented. I will not let you down, chieftain. I will lead our warriors with honor and courage. Yuba nodded, a proud smile spreading across his face. I know you will. And remember, you are not alone. We stand with you, every step of the way. As Amina left the chief's hut, the gravity of her new role settled upon her. She looked out at the village, at the people who had placed their trust in her. She could see the warriors, both men and women, preparing for the battles to come. They looked up as she approached, their expressions a mixture of hope and anticipation. Holding the ceremonial spear high, Amina addressed them, her voice clear and strong. We fight for Ntembe, for our home, and for each other. Together, we will face whatever challenges come our way. Together, we will prevail. The warriors erupted in cheers, their unity and determination palpable. Amina's heart swelled with pride and resolve. With Chieftain Yuba's blessing and the support of her people, she felt ready to lead them into whatever future lay ahead. The dense forest surrounding the village of Ntembe. The air is thick with tension as the battle rages. The shouts and clashing of weapons fill the air. Amina, disguised as a Mori, moves swiftly through the trees, her senses alert. Amina glanced back, seeing the Mabuto warriors gaining on her. Their leader, a fierce and burly man named Kwame, backed others as they surged forward, their weapons gleaming in the dappled sunlight. Amina's heart pounded, but she remained focused. The ambush was set, all she needed to do was lure them in. After him. Kwame roared, his voice cutting through the cacophony of the forest. Do not let him escape. Amina, her breath coming in controlled bursts, darted through the trees, her footsteps light and agile. She knew this forest like the back of her hand, each twist and turn ingrained in her memory from years of secret training. She could hear the swish of arrows and the thud of spears embedding themselves in the ground and trees around her. She narrowly avoided one that whizzed past her ear, her movements fluid and instinctual. She reached a clearing, pausing for a split second to make sure the Mabuto warriors saw her. Kwame's eyes locked onto her, a look of triumph crossing his face. There he is. Surround him. Kwame commanded, his warriors spreading out to encircle the clearing. Amina turned and dashed deeper into the forest, leading them away from the safety of their formation. She could feel their presence close behind, the heavy footsteps and angry shouts driving her forward. She knew the ambush point was near, where her warriors lay in wait, hidden among the thick foliage. Suddenly, she burst through another thicket, arriving at a narrow pass flanked by large boulders and dense undergrowth. She hesitated just long enough to make sure Kwame and his men followed her in. As the first few Mabuto warriors entered the pass, she let out a sharp, piercing whistle. In an instant, the forest erupted. Warriors of Ntembe, hidden in the trees and behind rocks, sprang into action. They held spears and shot arrows with deadly precision. The ambushers fell upon the Mabuto with ferocity, catching them off guard. Kwame's eyes widened in realization, but it was too late. His men were caught in the trap, confusion and panic spreading among them. Amina turned, her eyes blazing with determination, and joined the fray, her spear a blur as she fought alongside her comrades. "Fall back!" Kwame shouted, trying to rally his men, but they were already being overwhelmed by the well-coordinated attack. Amina found herself face-to-face with Kwame. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded. Kwame charged at her, his weapon raised, but Amina was quicker. She sidestepped his attack, bringing the butt of her spear up to knock him off balance. With a swift, decisive move, she disarmed him, pressing the tip of her spear to his throat. "Yield," she commanded, her voice steady. Kwame glared at her, defiance in his eyes, but he knew he was beaten. Slowly, he raised his hands in surrender. The remaining Mabuto warriors, seeing their leader captured, dropped their weapons. The warriors of Ntembe cheered, their victory complete. Amina lowered her spear, her breathing heavy but controlled. She looked around at her people, their faces filled with pride and relief. The ambush had worked perfectly, and their village was safe for another day. One of her warriors, Kofi, emerged from the undergrowth, a broad smile on his face. "Well done, Omori. We did it." Amina nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Yes, we did. But the fight is not over. We must remain vigilant and ready for whatever comes next." The warriors gathered around her, their respect and admiration evident. Amina stood tall, her heart filled with hope and determination. With the support of her people and her unwavering spirit, she knew they could face any challenge that lay ahead. The village of Ntembe, vibrant and alive with celebration. The once tense and battle-worn atmosphere is now filled with joy and relief. The villagers gather in the central square, adorned with colorful decorations and blazing bonfires. The sky above is clear, stars twinkling like diamonds. Amina stood at the center of the village, a smile of genuine happiness on her face. Around her, the villagers laughed, danced, and sang, their spirits lifted by the hard-won triumph. The drums beat a steady, joyous rhythm, accompanied by the melodies of traditional flutes and the clapping of hands. Women and men danced in a circle, their movements synchronized and graceful. Children ran around, waving small flags and playing games, their laughter echoing through the night. Kofi approached Amina, his eyes shining with pride. "Sister, we did it. The village is safe because of you." Amina shook her head, her smile widening. "No, Kofi, it was because of all of us. We fought together, and we won together." Chieftain Yuba, dressed in his finest ceremonial robes, stepped forward, raising his hands to call for silence. The villagers quieted, turning their attention to their wise leader. "Tonight, we celebrate not just a victory, but the strength and unity of Ntembe," Yuba declared, his voice strong and clear. "We have shown that together, we can overcome any challenge. And we owe a special thanks to Amina, who led us with courage and wisdom." The crowd erupted in cheers, chanting Amina's name. She felt a surge of emotion, humbled by their gratitude and support. She stepped forward, addressing the villagers. "I am honored by your words, Chieftain Yuba, and by the love and strength of our people," Amina said, her voice carrying across the square. "This victory belongs to all of us. Let us remember those who fought bravely and those we have lost. And let us honor them by continuing to protect and cherish our home. The villagers cheered again, the sound reverberating through the night. As the celebration continued, Amina moved among her people, accepting their congratulations and sharing in their joy. She danced with the women, laughed with the children, and shared stories with the men. At one point, Kofi pulled her aside, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Do you remember when I caught you training in the forest? I never imagined we would end up here, celebrating a victory you helped bring about." Amina chuckled, ruffling his hair. "And I never imagined you would become such a brave warrior. We have both grown, Kofi, and so has our village." As the night wore on, the festivities grew even more spirited. The villagers feasted on roasted meats, fresh fruits, and sweet treats. They drank from cups filled with honeyed wine and shared stories of the battle, each tale becoming more exaggerated and heroic with each retelling. In the midst of the revelry, Amina found a quiet moment to reflect. She looked around at the faces of her friends and family, seeing the joy and relief in their eyes. She thought of her father and brother, and the legacy they had left her. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and purpose. Chieftain Yuba approached her, a warm smile on his face. "You have done well, Amina. Your father and brother would be proud." Amina nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you, Chieftain. I will continue to honor their memory and protect our village." Yuba placed a hand on her shoulder. "I have no doubt you will. And remember, you are never alone. We are all with you, now and always." As the celebration continued into the early hours of the morning, Amina felt a profound sense of belonging and hope. The village of Ntembe had faced a great challenge and emerged stronger for it. And with their unity and determination, she knew they could face whatever the future held. The night sky above was a blanket of stars, and beneath it, the village of Ntembe shone brightly, a beacon of resilience and triumph. The central square of Ntembe transformed into a grand stage for the ceremony. The village is decorated with colorful banners and flowers. The entire village has gathered, their faces filled with anticipation and pride. At the forefront stands Chieftain Yuba, flanked by the village elders and warriors. Amina, dressed in her father's armor adorned with symbols of victory, stands beside them. Chieftain Yuba raised his hands, calling for silence. The villagers quieted, their eyes fixed on him. The crackling of the bonfires and the gentle rustling of the trees were the only sounds that filled the night. "People of Ntembe," Yuba began, his voice resonating with authority and warmth. "Tonight, we gather not only to celebrate our victory but to honor a true hero among us. A warrior who has shown unparalleled bravery, wisdom, and leadership. Amina, step forward." Amina took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart pounding with a mix of nervousness and pride. The villagers erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the village. She felt the weight of their admiration and support, and it filled her with a profound sense of purpose. Yuba continued, "Amina, you have led us through the darkest of